Scottie Barnes is off to a hot start, scoring more than expected over his first 5 pro games. How is the Raptors rookie getting it done? I'll show you right now. Hey, what's up? I'm Blake Murphy, and welcome to the Fast Breakdown. The Toronto Raptors have started their season 2-3, and one of the earliest and happiest surprises has been the scoring prowess of number 4 pick, Scottie Barnes. If you remember back to draft time, Barnes was somewhat of a divisive pick. It's not that nobody thought he wasn't a very good prospect, but compared to his contemporaries in the top 5, like Jalen Green and Jalen Suggs, there were questions about whether he'd be able to contribute as a scorer at the NBA level, at least right away. So today we want to take a look at what's helped Barnes be so successful as a scorer in his first 5 games as a pro. The first area Barnes looks more comfortable than expected is in the mid-range. Now, this idea that the mid-range is dead has been dramatically overstated. It's now simply the territory of stars, or if you're the Raptors and Scottie Barnes, the territory of players who are being given a little bit of freedom to expand their offensive game with an eye on long-term development. A relative non-shooter in college, summer league, and preseason, it's not behind the three-point line where Barnes is showing this growth. He's 1 of 6 on threes, which is fine. He has to take them, but it's the knack for getting into and hitting mid-range looks that stood out. Barnes is shooting 6 of 15 on shots from 10 feet out to the three-point line. Defenders are understandably playing Barnes to drive and not to pull up. That makes sense. He hasn't established that shot as a weapon much yet. But because the Raptors are using Barnes in a number of ways, he can get into that mid-range look comfortably. Even a long defender like Boston Celtics center Al Horford has trouble closing the space he's conceded to Barnes once he steps into the jumper. In this clip, Horford looks almost caught off guard that Barnes is even pulling up. But Barnes has already gone through multiple reads to make this decision. He's looked off the handoff to Fred VanVleet because of how Marcus Smart is denying it. He's surveyed help on the strong side and noticed that 2 defenders are within help range if he drives that way. And he's spotted Robert Williams ready to pinch at the nail if he drives left. So this might look like Barnes is calling his own number like a superstar and stepping into a long 2 at the top of the key, but underneath that decision are multiple reads and an anticipation of how a large defender like Al Horford is going to defend him. Adjusting in the floater range. That mid-range package is the most obvious addition to Barnes' repertoire. He shot just 39.4% on a low volume of 2s in college that didn't come at the rim. But not all 2s that aren't at the rim are long mid-range jumpers. It's that floater range, that space in between the restricted area and the free throw line, where Barnes has really been able to show his elite feel. At Florida State, he rarely utilized this weapon. Not only was he not very successful in that area, he shot 7 of 23 from floater range over his freshman year, he just didn't need to utilize it that much when he could live at the rim. In my opinion, one of the best indicators of a player's feel for the game is how he processes and navigates spacing on the court. Barnes has already shown an ability to finish on shots in that 3 to 10 foot range via the cut. Watch this example, once again against the Boston Celtics. Here, Fred VanVleet's operating out of the corner. Barnes is starting this possession at the top of the three-point line, getting no attention from a defense that's treating him as a non-shooter, as the book on Barnes is. That allows Boston to overload the paint, with Jason Tatum sliding down to help against Fred VanVleet's potential baseline drive. That leaves Josh Richardson and Romeo Langford guarding 3 players across the top, including shooting threat Svi Mykhailiuk. As Mykhailiuk kind of moonwalks back to the three-point line, that's effectively screening Josh Richardson. Barnes sees this, he notices no chests towards him and very few eyeballs towards him, and he darts into the paint to give VanVleet an option. Notice too how Barnes doesn't just steamroll to the rim. He starts out quick and then he slows his approach, recognizing that VanVleet doesn't quite yet have a passing lane. He keeps himself present as a passing target as long as possible through the paint. That's so that Fred VanVleet doesn't have to wrap a tough pass around a defender or try to squeeze one between 2 defenders. Instead, Barnes leaves himself as a target as long as possible. VanVleet finds him and he scored once again from that area. Barnes has also utilized that feel off the dribble and in post-up situations. Here, Barnes is posting up Kentavious Caldwell-Pope with an overloaded weak side. His play early on has already suggested you'll need a bigger defender on him, but it's maybe not because he's going to back down a smaller defender like KCP. He does have that in his bag though. Here, he's going to use strength and guile to get into a leaner. At one point, it looks like he's in trouble. He picks up his dribble in a non-shooting position, and the 2 passes available to him are OG Anunoby if he flashes to the top, which requires passing around a defender who can probably close out on that in time. The other would be if Goran Dragic fills to the corner and Barnes makes a difficult skip pass to find him. That's a pass that Barnes probably makes eventually, but right now it might be a little bit advanced. He might also notice that there's not a second line of defense behind KCP, and that presents an opportunity to use his stride length and touch to score on a somewhat unlikely post move. Barnes is even flashing this touch and feel at something resembling top speed, allowing him to take advantage of mismatches on the move and in semi-transition. Against the Chicago Bulls, he caught Nikola Vucevic a little flat-footed and a little too conservative in a situation just like that. Here, Barnes is aware of multiple options. He has Anunoby as a cutter, he has Van Vliet in the corner, he has Achua trailing, but once Zach LaVine undercommits to the pinch, Barnes has the freedom he needs. Note too that Barnes spends very little of this clip looking at Vucevic or looking at the rim. He feints the corner pass to Van Vliet, and that convinces Vucevic that a shot isn't very likely. Barnes then smoothly gets into a runner, scoring over the center. On the season, Barnes is 12 of 22 from 3 to 10 feet from the rim, trailing only the reigning MVP, Nikola Jokic, in field goals in that area. How this can impact his playmaking. Coming into the season, we expected playmaking to be Barnes' standout offensive skill. He was an excellent passer at Florida State, he wowed at Summer League with some eye-popping transition feeds, and he had a monstrous 28-9 assist-to-turnover ratio in the preseason. That skill has carried over, primarily in the open court. Barnes is very creative, and with his size and speed in space, he should eventually end up a nightmare for transition defenses, if he isn't already. He uses that same progression-style approach to surveying the floor on the move, rarely giving his defender the benefit of eye contact or too long a glance at a potential passing target. Barnes surveys the floor like a quarterback going through his progressions in the pocket, rarely indicating to his defender what his plan is. That can make it very difficult to defend him. And as he adds the threat of floaters, the threat of runners, and the threat of getting to the rim, it's only going to open up more of his playmaking game. That hadn't quite materialized in the half court until Wednesday night against the Indiana Pacers when Barnes tallied a career-high 7 assists. He continued to show that ability to find cutters out of the post, out of elbow situations, and even facing up. This is why Nick Nurse has urged Barnes to be even more aggressive with the ball, even as he's outscoring expectation. That will create windows for his playmaking. These things tend to go together. The more dangerous a scorer you are, the more opens up for you in passing opportunities. So this skill will continue to grow. Barnes' processing speed, his vision, and his overall two-way feel leave little doubt he's going to learn not only how to react to defenses, but eventually manipulate them. The early scoring returns can only expedite this process. For now, appreciate the unexpected scoring bump, the excellent defense, and of course, all the positive Scottie Barnes vibes. I'm Blake Murphy, and this has been the Fast Breakdown.